Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Music Lab podcast. My name is Dogg, and I am so excited to be back with all of you for another episode of the podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel, our social media pages. That helps us, and that helps the bands and artists like Mr. Jared here, Wheelwright. Also, don't forget to check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't just wear RAR. So, Mr.
Cool.
Jared Wheelwright, former lead singer of Jared and the Mill, how the hell are you?
I'm doing all right, man. I just got off the road, so I'm still getting over that hump of post-tour depression. But I'm just about there and feeling pretty good.
Good. I have, we've basically known you since 2017. We were kind of talking beforehand, which South by we saw you at, but the more and more I think about it, I think we did see you both years. So I am
Okay.
familiar with you since 2017. Going back to that time, what do you remember most, and what was the best part of that year?
Oh my gosh. You know what? That's a hard question to answer because I don't it all kind of blended together.
Sure.
Towards the last couple of years with Jared in the Mill, we toured so extensively that like I couldn't compartmentalize like different timelines or anything for you. It all kind of blended to get like the last like 4 years before the world ended sort of all blends together, to be honest with you. I couldn't tell you exactly what uh what I remember specifically from that timeline, but what could tell you is that we were having a lot of fun and we were touring our little keisters off and having the time of our lives.
What do you remember about those South by appearances when you went in 17 and 18?
I think that for the most part, I just remember like how much work South by Southwest is. They don't make it easy on you when it comes to schlepping your stuff. So like they'll famously have bands like carrying their gear for like half a mile to get to the stage that they're playing at. So like I think we did a couple of those that year. And there's a lot of that, but there's also just a lot of like, it's a very exciting time where seemingly anything can happen. It's a pretty magical music festival. Um, and yeah, I just making lots of friends and hopefully making lots of fans and playing my songs for pretty much anyone that will listen.
Yeah. So let's fast forward then. February 17th, 2021. The world is obviously on lockdown, the pandemic. You make a statement, a pretty defining kind of career statement. And I read it again today because I remember reading it and
Okay.
being, sort of mixed emotions, like I think a lot of your fans, because, it was, yes, we were closing a chapter on this wonderful, like, again, chapter in your life,
Yeah.
but it was still allowing like that music to live on, and you obviously being the main songwriter was still going to continue being a songwriter. It wasn't like you were ending, it was just that chapter was ending. Does that make sense? Or when I say
Yeah.
that, what does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I think you kind of nailed it. It's just sort of the next chapter of my story. Not to say that, it wasn't also the guy's story as well. But I think one of the reasons that we made the decision to transition into me being a solo project is because, you know, we started touring pretty much right out of college, and there wasn't a lot of time to think about what each individual wanted for their own life. Um, and I think that the time at home during the epidemic gave a lot of guys the feeling of like, oh, I kind of like the idea of like being home and hanging out with, my girlfriend or my wife or having kids or, like creating a life for myself. And two or three guys sort of really dug into that sentiment. And after having a conversation just as a band, it kind of became more and more clear that like I didn't want to play that game where you see bands kind of fizzle out because they try to keep exactly what they have and they try to accommodate everyone's schedule and everyone's values, and then like until it gets harder and harder and harder and harder until there's either resentment or you give up. um I didn't want that because me and the guys are still best friends. I'm going to lunch with the four guys still in Phoenix, or the three guys still in Phoenix. um Tomorrow actually we're gonna do Indian buffet for lunch, because that's like one of our favorite things to do. And yeah, like I didn't want there to be any sort of resentment because I could see I've always been like a very committed and hard worker. And when it comes to the pursuing of the dream, it's I'm definitely a big all or nothing kind of guy. So like, um I didn't want to experience that sort of like resentment towards the guys that I love. And then giving up what just wasn't an option. So I was like, why don't you guys sort of like take a step back and do whatever it is you want to do with your time, and I'm going to keep on chugging along. And if at any point you want to jump in and help out with anything, whether it's writing or recording or touring or anything, you guys have like just as much ability to do that as you ever did. But I won't be beholden to the four of you. um I can sort of have the flexibility of doing my own thing. And I think that it was a nice transitionary move, where like, some of the guys did a couple tours with me, and we all still wrote together and we recorded a couple songs together. And like we still do that. Um, Obviously just not to the same extent as when we were Jared in the Mill.
So I'm going to ask you a philosophical question, and if you feel like this, it's not either appropriate, then you can just say that. And if it
Oh, let's
is,
go.
then I want to hear your take on this.
Sure, yeah.
Say you got a major like label
Uh-huh.
that came to you and said, "Hey, I want to sign you." Would the band like be behind that, or would you have like certain members that would probably, even with that situation, still not like go along with that, like where a tour would happen and all that stuff?
In what sense? If a label was like, we want Jared in the Mill, or
Yeah,
like,
like, hey, we want you to produce, we want a new album, we want, we're gonna back you, we're gonna, like full production, like a whole, yeah, like
but like as Jared in the Mill or as Wheelwright?
as Wheelwright.
Oh yeah, dude, they'd be so supportive. The guys, every honestly, every win I get, the guys are like all very supportive, and
Gotcha.
they're like pretty stoked. And they're all that I just like I wrote a song with Larry last time I was in Nashville, and we recorded it, and it'll be coming out in the next couple months. And um he's like, he's so like, dude, this is your song, like, you get the final say, like, don't worry about, I'll give you notes, but don't worry about like how it's your project, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And we were talking about it, and he was like, I hope this song, you know charts. That'd be amazing, because that I wrote it and helped record it, and I would make money, and that'd be super cool. Like, but there was no like, yeah, like I gotta like get recognition, or I gotta like be a part of the thing. It's just like it's always been this mentality of like, whatever we can do to help Jared do the thing without like exhausting ourselves. Like,
Hmm.
they've been just so incredibly supportive. And they're like I said, they're still my best friends, and they treat me kind of like that. So I've had situations where I get pretty cool opportunities, and I don't sense any resentment.
Right. So we decide to go on as Wheelwright.
Yeah.
let's talk about the name. And then I want to get your take on the first song that you record as Wheelwright. What like your thoughts and like what your emotions are going through when
Yeah.
that release happens and like the process of writing that first song.
So like well, the name Wheelwright actually is something that I've kind of been working under for a while, actually. Like it was for a while when Jared in the Mill was kind of full steam ahead. Wheelwright was just something that I would do to just blow off creative steam.
Mhm.
I would play shows as Wheelwright, and I just like I played songs that I wrote for Jared in the Mill. I played songs that I just wrote for myself, and I also like I did merch as Wheelwright, where it's like I did stickers, which was just a roll of duct tape and a Sharpie, and I would sell. I do like a garage sale style thing at my merch table where I just like find junk in my room and in my closet, and I'd sell it at the merch table. And it was always just sort of this like goofy thing that I would do, just for fun. And it seemed like the best name to kind of shuffle my new project under because it was me and it felt like me. Um, and the name itself comes from my last name is Kolosar, which in Slavic it means wheelwright. So that's where it comes from. Um, and yeah, that's where the name comes from. That's the deal with the name. But yeah, the first song that we recorded that I put out as Wheelwright was actually just like sort of the me and the guys just screwing around in a studio for a couple days. There wasn't like a lot of intention. We had talked a little bit about like what are we gonna do in the future? Do we want to keep doing this band thing? But we also sort of shut that off and we're like, let's just make a cool song together. The world's kind of in a complete fucked chaos right now, so let's just do what we enjoy doing with each other and
Mhm.
not worry about like what the future of the song is or anything like that. So that was that first song was we did just like you, and I forget which order things came in, but we released just like you, use me up, and when the party's over, I think the cover of when the party is over. um so in the same time frame we recorded just like you and use me up.
So talk about then you're now again you have the guys kind of backing, but you're more now of a solo artist. Like what is the dynamic like compared to obviously the obvious answers are yeah, you don't have to answer to anybody anymore, but what are
Yeah.
those other dynamics that are different about being a solo artist compared to being in the band?
There's like you said, there's a lot of like I don't have to answer to anyone. There's a lot of creative freedom of me just kind of doing whatever I feel like doing. And I think that that's really cool because it helps it allows me to as an artist be a little bit more focused, you know? Like it's not you don't sort of like it's not a big you don't have to campaign for your ideas in the studio or anything. You can sort of you can have the final say and you can actually have a vision that you just chase down 100%, and the product is then all on you, like if it doesn't sound the way that you wanted it to sound, that like, in your brain you have to sort of look in the mirror and ask yourself why, which is a little scary. And then the other aspect of it is while it can be frustrating to have to deal with a five-man vote in the studio. Um, there's been times where it's just me and an engineer in a studio, and I don't know what to do for a part. And he's like, I just put the microphones where I think the microphones should go. Don't look at me. And I have to sit there and eat studio time costs and be like, what the fuck am I doing with this song? Like, I spent however many days on it and now I'm just here and I feel like it's completely unfinished and I don't know why. And that can be pretty intimidating. So it definitely has its pros and cons.
Yeah. So do you write most of your songs then on acoustic guitar, or do you know how to play the piano, or what like instrument wise, what can you play, proficiently?
Professionally, nothing. I'm not a very good musician. And I tell people that, and I'm not. Listen, I'm a songwriter and like an artist. That's how I refer to myself.
Sure.
I never claim to be a guitar player. I can like play like right hand finger picking folk stuff pretty good, but that's kind of my only strength when it comes to like playing an instrument. Um, like people ask me to jam with them, and I'm like, I don't
Nope.
know. I don't like they'll be doing something, and I'll be like, I make a song and I practice that some bitch like 130 times before I play it for anyone. That's how I know how to play it. So like don't look to me to be like and a one and a two and a three and I'm just like I don't know what to do right now. I don't know my scales that well. I don't know any like inversions. I don't know a lot about music, unfortunately. And I need to get better at it. I don't have an excuse of why I'm not better for that. I should be better at that. But I can write I know chords on a guitar, I know chords on a piano, and I can write songs slowly on those things. But like a lot of my songwriting is actually done in the car where I'll come out with like a melody and words in my head and I'll sort of like sing it and I'll hum it and um it's not too hard to like put figure out which key the song is in and put chords to it. It's not that difficult. So that's sort of my songwriting process. That's always been my songwriting process. Just like, kind of starting with whatever piece, be it the chords, the melody, or the words, and just sort of going from there in whatever order.
Yeah. So would you say then you are more lyrics first when you write songs, then music, or is it music first, then lyrics?
It's whatever.
Yeah.
I don't sometimes like there's chords that I just play over and over again that I really like. Sometimes there's a melody that I keep humming in my head, and sometimes I write some words down when I'm hammered, and I'm like, I like the way those words look together. I'm gonna try to turn those into a song. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah. So I want to talk about four songs, but three off the bat, and then I want to talk about the fourth song later before we
Okay.
wrap up things. The first song I want to talk about is "Make You Proud,"
Okay.
um, and I gotta say, like, if someone listened to Jared in the Middle and then listened to your stuff, I mean, you really paint a multiple colored brush. And I love that. Like there's some R&B elements. You got still you still kind of have the Lumineer kind of Mumford and Son sound when you want to, but
Sure.
like sparse acoustic ballads, like a little bit rock and like you can also ramp it up and you get that wall of sound with
Yeah, yeah.
some synths and electronics. So is that deliberate or does that kind of just come out song by song?
It's just song by song. I mean, like I that's sort of that's sort of the type of artist that I've always wanted to be. Um, I like all sorts of different music, so like it feels good to have a song in my mind and not worry too much about like what jar does this fit in. Like I just make the song and I hope that there's a common thread that everyone finds that's just like the self, the me, the Jaredness in each one. And hopefully that ties it enough that it doesn't sound like completely different groups. Um, and I think I accomplished that pretty good. I mean, there's always sort of like a neo western like flair to everything. I always like have like pretty big like brash baritone like guitar melodies or like pedal steel. And I try to like give everything sort of this Wild West from the future type vibe.
Yeah. So
So whether it's like a big synthy rocky song or a little tiny acoustic song, like there has that common thread that goes through
yeah.
everything.
I feel like Make You Proud kind of has that sparse kind of Lumineers kind of feel to it. Give
Sure.
talk about that inspiration for that song.
Um, I wrote it the first words I wrote about it, I wrote for it were things change but I don't and it's hard but life's hard. And those are words that I sort of sat on for a really long time and I sort of like looked at them for a while in my journal. Um and sort of wrote around the idea of like missing the person that my partner, my girlfriend, who lives in Phoenix, is really special in that she is able to kind of have the patience to date someone that does what I do. Um, and we've been together for like 4 years now, and it's a really special it's a really special connection that I think that is very rare in that it takes a lot of sacrifice for both of us, you know. Um, and I think that love in its purest form is very flexible. And so I think that that's ultimately like what the song is about. To say like, I won't tell you what to do with your life as long as you never leave mine, is sort of the sentiment of like, I'm not asking you to like get me. I'm not telling you that like I get, the 9 to 5 grind that you're on. Um, but I we respect the hell out of each other and we want to be with each other. So that's kind of like what the song is about, I think. The idea of like, what's a kid from the road gonna do in a tight neck crowd is like, tight neck is an old cowboy term that my grandpa used to use for people who are sort of working the common term, I guess, would be like the 9 to 5ers, like people who are like like civil society.
Yeah, like
Um,
white collar.
yeah,
Yeah.
like people who aren't out there, being cowboys in some, at least some sense. Um, uh, and to say like, I can't do the life that like a lot of people would call like stable. Um, and I hope that that's okay with you, is sort of the sentiment of the song.
So, do you feel like if you didn't have this relationship with her, that your musical career would be where it's at right now?
Maybe. I mean, to be honest, I try to keep her completely separate from. I don't share her on social media. I don't. I try to like, I try to keep my job as professional as I can in that way. Um, she's super supportive, and she sort of holds me to that standard of like, this is your profession, take it seriously. But I don't think I sort of had that before we were dating as well. So I don't I don't think that she's a factor besides the fact that she's just crazy supportive.
Did she meet you at a show? And what is her favorite song that you do?
No, no, I have a firm don't date the fans policy.
Okay.
Um, her favorite song, I think her favorite song is Nothing's Wrong. That seems to be the one that she wants me to play the most when we're hanging out at the house.
So let's talk about Reckless.
Yeah,
The video, first of all, well done. Like, who did
thank
the,
you.
like, let's talk about the video first, then we can talk about
Yeah,
the song. Yeah. Like,
totally. Yeah, so me and my buddy Alex, who's like a really he's sort of like this hotshot camera guy around Phoenix. Phoenix actually has a pretty like is getting a pretty crazy like film industry right now. There's like big tax breaks for filming commercials and stuff. So that the state offers. So there's like a lot of that is moving to the city. So there's like a lot of independent movies, a lot of commercials and advertisements, and a lot of like Netflix sort of series are being filmed in Phoenix right now. Um, and he's always been sort of a big camera guy. He has always had like a lot of gear, and he has like trucks that he rents out to production companies and stuff. And um, so he's just I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of what he does, but he basically has been like a huge component in the film industry in Phoenix for a while now. Even though he's only like a 27-year-old kid. Um, so, but he's a buddy of mine, and we talked about making something together for a while. And he's from Phoenix and loves it just as much as I do. So, we were sort of like just shooting the shit about the song, and I was like, "Would you be down to do the video with me?" And he was like, "Yeah, I got some time right now." So we honestly just kind of drove around Phoenix with his little handy camcorder, and we just got videos of like some of our favorite people around town, and a little party that we had Michael Carter's the banjo player from Jared and the Mill. His backyard is and rooftop is like in some of the scenes, and it's just this little homage to the city that we love. And it was really fun to make, and we did it in like 2 days. It was super fun.
Yeah. So let's talk about Phoenix. I have only flown in there as a like connection. I've not spent any time in Phoenix. I was in Sedona when I was a kid.
Sure.
So I got to experience the magic of that, and I did. I truly did like feel something. I don't know what it was,
Yeah,
but I felt something like as a 12-year-old, like, visiting with my family. So
totally.
I have spent some time in Arizona, but I would like to spend some more. So
Cool.
tell our audience, like, what is great about Phoenix?
Everything. Every single thing except for the heat. The heat right now is kind of a bummer. Um, but I mean, you should come spend some time here. It's the fifth biggest city in the country.
Yeah.
It's like a massive population, and there's a lot to do. The people are super nice, and the food is crazy. I need to check on this, but I'm pretty sure we still have like in the entire. For a second, I think it was the entire world. We had the highest um, amount of James Beard winning chefs per capita. Um, we have a crazy food scene where there's like the food here is so good. And uh, the desert's beautiful, and I don't know. I think that I think that I just have such fond memories of like having interesting this interesting time growing up in Phoenix because it's this cultural patchwork in between, Mexico, California, Texas, just kind of the center point for all those different cultures. There's biker culture, there's cowboy culture, there's Mexican culture, there's indigenous culture. There's like so much here that has all kind of swirls together and becomes this really beautiful part of the country and part of the world that I can't even just begin to describe it. It's just something you feel when you get here, to be honest with you. And like like it's not as easy as coming to Old Town and Scottsdale and like doing the spring training baseball shit. Like that's its own thing. But I think that like you got to go out into the desert and have like a bonfire, or you got to go to a ghost town, or you know, go to a good ass burrito stand in the middle of nowhere in South Phoenix to like really get it.
I yeah, I mean, you kind of get that a little bit with like Austin too. Like, it's such a great food scene, hole
For
in the
sure.
wall places, definitely Tex-Mex plenty down there as well.
Yeah, for
Really
sure.
get that. So
I was
what
just in
about
Austin and got some really good barbecue, which is always a must for
yeah,
me.
definitely. Well, yeah, because you played there, what, 2 nights in January, right? Um, so then, yeah, well, we'll go into the tour then. I want to talk about like those individual stuff, but the Reckless video as well as the song itself, it
Mhm.
is, I would call it one of the few songs that you have that I would consider a slow burner. Is that fair to say?
A slow burner.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like kind of like a mid-tempo song, and like
yeah.
it's kind of bouncy and doesn't really drive you home or anything, but it's I think it's fun to listen to.
Yeah, rhythmically, it's really like, you know, each you get like some definition, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely quarter notes, dun 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 kind of song. Yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah. So what about the music scene in Phoenix? Like, talk about venues, talk about, is it welcoming to like independent artists, or is it more cover bands and you gotta, have
Oh,
six
it's
million
pretty.
followers?
Phoenix is funny because we have so much talent here, but there's like no industry, so it's all like pretty like unorganized. But there's a lot of really awesome artists here that it's there's little it's kind of clicky in that there's like there's groups, there's like scenes within the scene of bands that sort of like kind of stay to their own little niche of genre space or whatever. But like there's a lot of really great venues here. There's a spot called Crescent Ballroom that's like it's become this like legendary like mid level venue. It's like 5 to 600 cap depending on who you're talking to. Um, and it's like a really great sounding space with a really great staff. It's like super legendary at this point, like I said, and they have a little sister spot called Valley Bar that's like in the basement in a basement in downtown Phoenix. That's like also wicked awesome. And then that the people that own that opened up this 1800 cap spot called the Van Buren. That's like a really bitchin' like large indoor club venue. And so there's and there's Rebel Lounge that's like a hub of local culture. There's a Last Exit Live. There's a ton of DIY venues. Um, there's a lot of spaces to play for original music, and we have a I think every city has like a covered scene where there's like people that just know a bajillion songs and they play them every Wednesday through Sunday night.
Yeah.
Um, but no, yeah, there's a ton of really great artists. I mean, there's more than you can shake a stick at. I know that you're familiar with Sydney Sprague, and she's a very very good friend of mine. We just hung out last night. We have our friends. We have Bachelor Night where we watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, um, and her and Chuck are a part of that as well.
All right. I mean, I think actually there is a guy from our area that's on The Bachelorette this year.
Oh yeah. Wait,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
are you in Austin?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm about an hour and a half west of Philly, about an hour and a half north of Baltimore. So
Okay,
it's
yeah.
for yeah, for location, like it's great for music venues. Like,
Oh,
I'm,
totally.
I'm
Yeah.
all within 2 hours of some fantastic.
That's a beautiful thing. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff going on out there. There's definitely like I feel like there's always a couple guys from the Mid Atlantic area in the Bachelorette and girls in the Bachelor.
Yeah. So uh, I want to list just the bands that I know that are from Arizona or from Phoenix, right?
Oh, yeah, go
Jimmy
for
Eat
it.
World, we got Spafford.
Oh yeah.
Who else? Who else like calls Phoenix like home?
The Gin Blossoms are
Oh, yeah.
like
Okay.
favorite band of mine, and they're from here.
Okay.
And then yeah, Sydney Sprague. Then there's a really awesome young artist who I think lives in LA right now, but they lived in Phoenix for a while. Their name is Saya. Really cool, like punky R&B sort of vibe.
Okay.
Um, there's a band and oh, you're putting me on the spot, and I could if we weren't recording, I could tell you a thousand. There's a
Yeah.
band called Slugbug that's awesome. There's a gal who lives in LA, but her name is Taylor Saxon, who I just got done touring with, and she
Yeah.
is incredibly talented singer, like the kind of singer that makes everyone stop in their tracks and listen to her. Um, Super cool. Danielle Durack just moved to Nashville, but she's awesome. There's a dude named Pariah Pete who's super cool. Um, there's a lot of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
I
That sounds
I feel bad calling out artists because
sure.
I don't want to forget any. You know what I
Right.
mean?
No, I understand. And that's a losing battle, and I apologize that I had you be a
It's all,
part of it.
it's all good. I'm just a fan of like of all of them. I mean, there's
Yeah.
like Playboy Man Baby is a really awesome like sort of experimental punk band. They're from here. Um,
Is there a
uh,
band called the Viper Club still around? Are they still playing?
the Viper Club. I'm
Yeah.
not hip to the Viper Club. Maybe
Okay.
though.
Okay, they were a rock band. I know they're from Phoenix because they were with uh I forget the record label. Um X something maybe?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not familiar.
Okay. I'll have to, yeah. Again, if we weren't recording, you're right. I would probably
Yeah,
remember it too. But
yeah,
um
exactly.
yeah. So the last song I want to talk about is Big
Yeah,
Iron and
yeah. Let's go.
what the thought process was of doing what you consider like, well, I guess how it was listed, right? The classic version and
Uh-huh.
then the neo-Western version.
Yeah. Totally. So there's like a project in my head that I've always wanted to do that I'm gonna try to keep on doing with Wheelwright, which is like doing a classic Western song in its original form and then sort of like doing like a reinvention of the song. So the next tune that I think I'm gonna do is Poncho and Lefty by Towns Van Zandt. But yeah, the first installment was Big Iron, and it felt right to do that because I've been playing it for a while. My grandpa passed away kind of recently, um, and he actually knew Marty Robbins. They were kids together, hanging, bopping around Phoenix. Um, and he used to tell me a bunch of stories about them getting into trouble back in the day. So it felt right to do that song first, sort of to honor my grandpa.
That's awesome. And obviously RIP.
Yeah.
Um, so we talked about full band versus solo. Yeah, so let's get into this. I mean, like we said, you've been kind of touring nonstop since January. What did we do then in the fall of 23, then winter of 23? Anything, or did we kind of lay low during that time?
There's a lot of laying low and sort of recording,
Okay.
trying to get my bearings. You know, like we were talking about, there's a lot of diversity in my music, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to sort of express that. And I think that I'm gonna do it sort of in waves. So right now, I'm really diving into like more of the the folky Americana country aspect of my music.
Mhm.
So there's like a couple more songs I got coming out that sort of reflect that. But yeah, at the time it was just like, just recording a bajillion different like little parts of songs, ideas and stuff and sort of organizing it and trying to figure out what the hell I was doing as an artist.
Right. So is because, how the whole structure of streaming and how payouts and all that is, it
hmm
does it make it, and I've asked this of other artists and bands that I've interviewed, like, does it make it harder to not want to do a full album where you're just putting out singles, or does that not really dissuade you?
Um, Unfortunately, I'm limited by budget. It's expensive to record a record, and like do the whole packaging and everything. And especially like when you don't have the audience that really is gonna really uh take a record and share it with everyone and like do the things. I think that like the best way to develop your profile as an artist is to release singles because when you think about it, this is such a stupid industry jargon sort of thing, but when you think about when you think about making a release and like having a release, uh you put it out there and it's a new thing, and all the DSPs, Spotify and Apple Music, they say, hey, this artist has this new thing, and people share, oh my god, my favorite artist put out this new thing. And if there's like it's like one thing, right? So like, if it's an album, it's still going to just be the one thing that everyone's talking about and sharing for a second, and then they're going to be on to the next thing. So if you do singles and like, one song at a time, you get, instead of the one time of check out this new thing everyone's sharing, you get that 15 times.
Right.
Those 15 songs could have been a record, and maybe one day you organize them and put them on a vinyl record or something.
Right.
But like, for the purpose of getting your name out there and stuff, it just makes more sense to do singles. And honestly, like I'm such a I mean I'm probably just too much of a millennial, but I listen to songs. I don't. It's very rare that I'll put on a record and just listen to it like, toast to tip.
You're more of a mixtape guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I will say, Medium Build put out a record called Country recently that I can't stop listening to that song from start to finish over and over and over again.
So let's talk about, and because you kind of spoke so highly of her, let's talk about Taylor Saxon and like that tour with her, and either share an experience that you had on that tour, or a conversation that you had with her that was really kind of memorable.
I mean, honestly, we just have a lot of fun when we're together. There's a lot of joking around. We don't really take anything too seriously. There's not a lot of big like sitting around and you know waxing romantic on anything. There's it's pretty light when we're together, and like we just make jokes and fuck around, and then when it's time to play songs, we get all dark and stormy and we play our songs. But for the most part, we it's pretty light, and like we just have a good time.
And how did you connect with her then?
So she's from Phoenix, like I said.
Okay.
So we've just known about each other and of each other for a long time, and then we sort of rubbed shoulders a little bit in Phoenix, and then I had some stuff that was coming up in California, and I just hit her up and said, "Hey, would you want to play some shows with me in California?" And she said, "Yeah, let's do it." I wish it was more romantic than that, but it's yeah, it really is just
Yeah.
it really was just like, "Hey, you want to do this? Yeah, sure, let's do it. Done."
So then let's talk about the tours with Leon and Will.
Yeah.
What share an experience with either one of those then?
So Will Overman, and I have we've actually like played together several times. There's just a lot of we just line up our schedules a lot, I guess. So, um, his manager and my manager were both like, uh, let's we're both going to be in the same region at this time, so let's just put the guys on the road at the same time and see if we can marry their fans together a little bit. And me and him, we always have a good time. I mean, like it's honestly road dogging can sometimes be so time consuming that you don't really like get a lot of time to like hang out and
Yeah.
like kick it. You know, like we've been teasing the idea of writing a song together, and just like I don't know, there was always just someplace to go, and there was always like we had to pack up early and get down the road to the next venue or whatever. We didn't really have a lot of time to hang out, but I did get to hang out a lot with Leon, and me and him got along. We were pretty fast friends. Um, we had a really good time charging across the Oklahoma and Texas together, and um we did write a song together, and it's a lot of fun, and he's just such a dynamite dude. I think we're pretty kindred. He's sort of like me, where he's just willing to try anything, so we just sort of like jumped in with both feet to pretty much any experience that came our way, whether it was like we got done with a show and we're both tired as hell, but someone's like, "There's this crazy biker dive bar down the street. You got to come. Who this one honky tonk band is playing? They're awesome." We're like, "Yeah, fuck it, let's go." And we just would hang out till 3 in the morning and be hammered and drag our asses to whatever hotel was in the proximity. Um, and we yeah we had a really good time touring and playing shows, and I'm sure we're gonna do some more of it again because we enjoyed the hell out of it. His family's also from the Baltic Slavic
Okay.
area,
Okay.
so we sort of bonded over that. He's actually he was born over in the old country, so he's got one up on me with that. But we definitely bonded over our shared heritage.
That's awesome. That's yeah, especially yeah, whenever that opportunity happens, it's always cool.
Yeah,
Whatever point in your in life you are.
yeah,
Um,
100%.
so when you are on tour, what do you feel like is the one thing or one area, I guess, that you try and cut cost as much as possible?
Hotels.
Okay.
I mean, I was just on tour for like a month and a half, and I only stayed at one hotel because I have so many friends across the country that I can stay with, and I've built up, this army of people who are willing to let road dogs into their house. So whether I'm with a band or by myself, I always pretty much every city I got a bed that I'm pretty familiar with at this point.
I mean, that's pretty incredible, isn't it? I mean,
It's the best. It truly is it's a very incredible thing. And I think when you spend as much time as I have, like kind of relying on the kindness of strangers and acquaintances, you start to it paints a really different view of humanity that I think a lot of people would want you to believe. There's a lot of kindness out there, and I think people are naturally pretty good and giving.
well, especially I think in the music community, anybody that
Yeah.
gives anything about music, yeah, I think
Hmm.
are pretty kind-hearted at, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when telling people that you're a band on tour is a pretty it's sort of like this magic ticket that I think that people are just really excited to sort of it's almost like a folk hero sort of status where like there's been so many times where I'm having car trouble and like the van is like not going or something, and we just jump to the front of the service line at whatever Chevy dealership because it's like we got to get the band back on the road so they can get to the show. Like people are like so eager to help the band. It's such a
Yeah.
funny anomaly. Like it's been this crazy get out of jail free card that I've had for the past 12 years of my life, and it's so funny how many ways it has helped me, just like with the social lubrication element.
Well, I think too, and maybe you can speak on this, or maybe I'm completely off, but I kind of feel like as a musician, you're always kind of on a journey. And I
Yeah,
think people want to be a part of that. If you're like,
totally.
again, like if we talked about earlier, like a white collar worker and you work 9 to 5, like that, you don't ever consider that like a journey. Like that's
Yeah,
just your
yeah, totally.
profession. So
Yeah, that's like that's something that like you do so that you can go on the different adventures that you want to go on, I guess.
yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like it's definitely like you're definitely a traveler. You're a professional traveler. I mean the big joke in the road dog community is like we're all just a bunch of traveling t-shirt salesmen. There's not a lot of we get to play music sometimes is like kind of the vibe.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, music is it's hard. It's traveling is touring is very hard, and it's very exciting for like a couple months. When you're like a band, you're like, yeah, we're going on tour, and like you're excited. But you get that beat out of you pretty quick. You get a little. It's easy to get jaded. I say that music is the gift that keeps on taking. Um, but it's fun, and you have to. I think you have to have sort of a love hate relationship for it
Yeah.
to be healthy. Um, because you're always traveling. You're just always exhausted. You're always going somewhere. You're never getting to like actually settle. It's just constant.
You're kind of like an athlete. People only see you when you're on the court.
Yeah,
You're,
yeah, true.
you know, you're, they only see you when you're on stage. They don't see like the 6 hours that, you drove from Nebraska to get there.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I mean, a funny thing is like, the dynamic of when you play a show, people are really excited because like this is their night to go out and they don't know that like this is the same thing you've done for the past 8 nights. And when you tell people like they're like, So what are you doing after the show?" And you're like, "Hopefully sleeping." They're like, "What? No, you're the band. You have to come out and party with us." And it's like, dude, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how people go crazy on the road, is trying to keep up with that kind of thing. Like, I try my best to like not drink too much anymore, and I try to keep it pretty chill if I'm not on stage like doing the thing. I'll still fire it up every once in a while if I get a wild hair, but I find that the best way to avoid that tour zombie depression type vibe is to try to like keep it low key and let people enjoy their special Friday nights that they're getting and try to support that. Um, and try not to display that this is the same Friday night I've had every day for the past 2 weeks.
It's like when you live in a resort town and your friends come to visit you and they
Yeah,
just expect that you're off. It's like,
yeah,
no, I
exactly.
work here.
Yeah, literally. That is so the vibe. It's really funny how that works. And like it's great. I think that what I enjoy doing is creating an environment for people to enjoy themselves. Um so I think music is a good way to do that. So it's I take to it for sure. I love doing it, but it definitely is like you know, people are going to have the assumption that you want to be there and you want to party, and uh, you have to like sort of cater to that vision for them, which is a really funny it's a really funny element of the job that I wish I knew more about going into it because it definitely got me the first couple of tours when I was a kid.
Yeah. So, like, how does your girlfriend kind of help you prepare when you go to tour? And then, like, that first week when because I often hear, especially if you're on a month and a half tour, when you
Yeah.
get back home, it's a little bit of an adjustment, right? Or is it
Oh
not
yeah.
much for you?
No, I mean, like, well, I've done it plenty of times, so I sort of have my own little tricks. But I
Sure.
mean, I'll definitely say post-tour depression is definitely a big thing. You when you spend so much time like every day traveling and like not having like a regular operations that you're doing, like every day you wake up and you drive to whatever venue and you maybe have 30 minutes to check out the area, like go get a coffee or something, and then you go load in, and then like maybe there's like a meet and greet, and maybe there's just like a sound check, hangout kind of thing, sound check, show, breakdown, sell merch, yada yada yada, get in the van, go to sleep. Like it's all the same day, just with a different environment, sort of thing, different like skin every day. And when you get home and you don't have the place that you're driving to and you don't have the contacts to call and say I'm here, it's time to load in and sound check and do a show, your brain sort of breaks because you're like not really sure what to do. And like it gets you a little bit. It definitely is like a weird thing of like, is any of this real? There's also this issue of like when you are on tour and you go through a place, the people that you're friends with that live there, they're like excited because you're coming to town and like they hit you up and stuff. So you're like always sort of the show, whether or not it's like with friends or your personal life or whatever, like you're the show that's coming through town. When you get back home, maybe you have like a night where your friends are like, "Hey, he's home, like let's all go to a bar or whatever." But like they all go back to their jobs and stuff and you're just like, "What do I do? What do I do? Why is no one telling me where to go or what to do right now? Like I'm just alone floating around in this weird city that I grew up in that like I don't know why I don't feel comfortable right now. It's a weird thing.
So,
It's,
were your parents musical? Like, are siblings, any siblings musical, or are you the lone wolf?
my dad likes to think he can sing, but that's pretty much it. My mom's tone deaf. She's an art teacher though. She taught high school art for a long time. So she taught me to paint and draw and like the fundamental elements of composition. That when it comes to songwriting and composing, I mean like any art form is has its own form of composition, right? So I think that in that way, like in more of like a heady way, she taught me a lot about music. But I'm the only one that plays an instrument or sings or performs or anything like that.
So I'm sure that it just infuriates her when you hear like schools and like budgets like cutting, music programs and like
Oh
other
yeah,
sort of like any extracurricular activities that could benefit like, school age children, right?
yeah, we get pretty fired up. There's like Arizona's a pretty red state, and there's a lot of budget being stripped from public education. And the first stuff to go on the chopping block is typically the creative programs and the after school programs and stuff like that. So it's definitely a bummer. Um, so yeah, her and I have done a fair amount of fist shaking at the TV when those stories come up.
Yeah. So let's talk about covers that you have played and covers
Okay.
that you still play. Anything that always tickles your fancy every time you play it, or are covers not really part of your repertoire anymore?
And I mean they're a little bit. I always like playing covers if I can. Funny enough, actually, I play Poncho and Lefty pretty often. It's a song that I really love. Um, and I just played it in Austin at Cactus Cafe, which is this legendary spot in the middle of UT's campus that Towns Van Zandt used to play at. So I played Poncho and Lefty just because it was like I was already playing at that tour, but I happened to be there, so I was like, of course I gotta play that. Um, and that was on Father's Day. And after I got off stage, I was at the merch table. This guy comes up. He's like, "Hey, Thank you very much for playing Poncho and Lefty on Father's Day at this place. It means a lot to me." And I was like, "Yeah, man, no problem." I didn't think a lot about it, but as he walked away, I was like, "What a weird thing to say." Like, "Thank you for playing this on Father's Day." And then I was like trying to rack my brain, like, why would he have said that? And then I realized that he kind of looks like Towns Van Zandt. And then when I looked into it, um, further, I saw pictures of his family, and I was like, God, that kind of looks like Towns Van Zandt's son. And then after the show, he came up to me. He was like, "Yeah, how much are your shirts? I'd love to get one for my son, Towns the Third." And I was like, "Oh my god!" And so yeah, it was pretty cool that I played a song for Towns' son um, on Father's Day. He wasn't expecting that, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a pretty special thing.
Yeah.
So that was rad. And other than that, man, like I don't know. I play fire. I play a cover of Fire and Rain by James Taylor that
Okay.
people seem to click with. I play America by Simon and Garfunkel. I keep it kind of like chill when it comes to my covers. To be honest with you, I don't play a lot of like big rock and roll covers.
No free bird from Wheelwright.
Dude, I love Freebird. I actually have played that a couple times. Funny enough, because it's such a good song. So, I mean, like obviously the guitar solo is what it's known for. It's like it's this crazy whole thing, but like the first half of that song is that's a watertight song.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's so funny though that of all of the songs that it's that song that
Yeah, dude, for sure.
it's
It's
so
the
funny.
it's the guitar solo. People want the guitar solo. Well, like I think now that the song is it's like it was a meme before memes were even a thing.
Right.
It's it just became this absurd thing to just yell at a concert. But you know what? It's similarly, actually, what is it? This the Oasis song. Why can't I think?
Wonderwall.
Wonderwall. I
Yeah.
play Wonderwall. I do play Wonderwall. That started
Nice.
out as like as a bit when I was streaming a lot on Twitch. If someone wanted to hear Wonderwall, I'd play it once. So as soon as someone commented it, I would just stop what I was doing and play Wonderwall. And so I brought that into the show. And sometimes if I'm playing a song that like isn't particularly like a moment for the show or anything, if someone yells Wonderwall, I'll just stop my song, whatever I was doing, and I'll play the first half of Wonderwall, and people usually respond pretty well to that. People lose their shit, and at first it's like a joke, but then everyone screams the chorus together. I mean, that's like one of those songs that like people rag on because it got overplayed, but it got overplayed because it's such a good song. So
I am a huge Oasis fan. It
yeah,
just
same.
it really troubles me that the two of them just can't get
Can't
along.
can't
Like,
figure it
yeah,
out.
I mean, because his stuff, like his High Flying Bird stuff, is
Yeah,
fantastic. Like Liam's last solo album was much better than the previous stuff that he's done. But yeah, I
yeah.
mean, like just get together. Like stop
What's
the
the story?
fucking.
Morning Glory is just one of the best records
Oh
of
my
all time.
God, it's so
It's
good.
so good. It's so good.
Yeah, it's funny because Wonderwall was covered by Ryan Adams. I don't know if you're a fan of Ryan Adams,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
um, which obviously he's had his issues the past couple years, but I mean,
Yes.
irregardless, just a fantastic singer songwriter, and
One of the
it was
best.
very odd that he covered that as well. I mean, he
Yeah, totally.
covered Taylor Swift too, but
Yeah, dude, his whole I listened to that Taylor cover record for a very long time. That was definitely a jam for me.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that takes that takes some definite balls to cover.
Dude, for sure. And like I remember him talking about it and like people were like, what was it like to write with Taylor Swift? And the framing of the question was always had this weird like tongue in cheek like she's a pop act. She couldn't possibly be a good songwriter, so why'd you do that? And like his responses were always like, she's probably the best songwriter I've ever worked with. The rate at which she writes is crazy and it's all
Mhm.
fire. And like I do think that Taylor Swift is probably one of the best songwriters of our era. She's just people get too wrapped up in the aesthetic of it and like
Yeah.
the bubble gum of it all. But the fact of the matter is that that some bitch can write a song just with the best of them.
Yeah, and it's funny because I like her country stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's like,
Well,
like that song "Mean" is so good. Like
it's a
it's
good
so
tune. That
good.
is a
Yeah.
good tune, man.
Yeah.
I'm hung up on her what's I don't Midnights.
Hmm.
Just her late I think it's her latest record. It might not be at this point, but that record is just like nuts to butts. That is such a good record. That is like that's another record that I can't listen to all the way through despite my mixtape mind.
Right. So what's girlfriend's music taste then? Similar to yours then, or is she kind of way off the?
Um, she listens to a lot of like sort of like world music, like a lot of Ethiopian jazz, a lot of sort of like retro, like African blues and stuff like that. Um she's kind of all over the place, to be honest with you. She really
Yeah.
likes Medium Build. We listen to a lot of Medium Build together. We listen to Chapel Roan. We listen to a lot of Chapel Roan together. I
Mhm.
mean, who doesn't love Chapel? Um, yeah, she and I she's kind of down for anything, to be honest with you. We whatever is on, she's probably enjoying. But when she's by herself, she listens to pretty like chill world music type vibe.
Yeah. So let's talk about any shows that you're going to see this summer. Any concerts or any bands?
Um, Let me think about this. I'm so showed out right now, to be honest. But like, I'll probably what will happen. I did just see. I mean, I feel like I've talked about him 1,000 times already tonight. But I saw Medium Build a couple weeks ago, at the Rebel Lounge in Phoenix when I happened to be in town, in between tours.
Mhm.
He was here, so I went and saw him, and he was just absolutely fantastic. Um, but I mean, to be honest with you, I'll probably just scan. I don't keep track of who's where, so I'll probably at some point just see like so and so's coming to Crescent Ballroom or Valley Bar or something, and I'll pop by.
Yeah.
Nothing I'm crazy excited for. I think actually, you know what? I think Peter Cat Recording Company is coming to the Van Buren, so I'll probably do that. Big fan of
And
them.
you said what's the capacity at Van Buren?
1,800 cat.
Okay. Yeah, that's fairly big. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But they're killing it. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar. They're from India, and they just randomly started blowing up in America. So they rejoined with one another and became a band again and started touring. And now they're just killing it. They're super cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what does your audience and what does our audience have to look forward to, like music wise, for the rest of the year?
So I'm gonna be rolling out singles. I've got like 4 songs sort of in the chamber ready to go. I'll
Okay.
be putting out a song called Muses sometime in the next couple months, and then I've been playing a song called Battle Cries for years, for a very very long time, and I've recorded it probably 6 times, and I've just like hated every time. Every time I've just called it off and been like, this isn't the vibe. And I think I finally have a version that I dig. And so I'll be putting that out soon, and I'm trying to put some tours together right now as we speak. I'm just trying to keep it all moving forward, to be honest with you. But like, yeah, definitely new songs, new music videos, live versions of songs. I'm trying to kick those back up once it's not too hot to go outside in Phoenix. I'll be doing a lot of live versions around town. So yeah, I mean, same old, but in a very exciting way. I'll say.
So would you say then, like, is Instagram then of your social media platforms that you use, do you use Instagram the most then, or are you TikTok, or what do you kind of,
Um,
how do you
so for
circle that
for
wagon?
for messaging, I do Instagram. That's like where I have like this is the information that I want you to know. And then TikTok is just whatever I happen to be doing at the time. I'll post a TikTok a lot, but I try my best to get people on my email list. To be honest with you, I kind of think that social media is dying, and so I'm trying to get as many people stacked up on my email list as possible right now because um, I want to be able to continue to talk to the homies that I have around the world.
Yeah, that's funny because and I think you're onto something because I've noticed some of the podcasts that I listen to,
Hmm.
they're really starting to push like the email, like
Yeah,
newsletters instead of like social media posts and stuff like
yeah,
that. So,
and it makes sense. I mean, people forget that all those social media companies are businesses. So like when they act like businesses, people are shocked. But
Yeah.
it's like people are like, I can't believe Instagram like stifles your posts so much, and like I almost never see us like. I can believe it. I don't pay them anything. They give me that service for free. So like it doesn't shock me that, you know, the view rate that I get isn't crazy. It's whatever.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
just
I
keep
mean like
making great
honestly,
music, right?
yeah, I think right now like I see social media as a means to just like bring in new fans. Like TikTok, I have some posts going right now that are doing really well, and my I've gotten a nice bump in listeners on Apple Music and Spotify, and I assume it's because those posts are taking off and people are checking it out. So that's great. So social media is social mediating.
It it doesn't always work, but when it does, like hot damn, right?
It's hot. When you're hot, you're hot. It's pretty nice.
Like a Phoenix summer, right?
That's it, man. God, it is. Yeah, it was a burner today. I think it was like 116 outside.
I
It
mean,
was
they say it's a dry heat, but when it's that hot, it doesn't matter, right?
well. No, to be honest though, and I'm gonna say this, and
Yeah.
I don't want to get too high on a soapbox, but the thing about the dry heat stuff is like when you're in like Alabama in the summer and it's hot as hell and it's also really humid, you go into a place that has air conditioning and they can be blasting it. And if you're cold, it still doesn't feel good because you're wet from all the humidity, right? So like then you're just cold and wet and clammy and doesn't feel good. In Phoenix, because it's so dry, it just evaporates right off you. So when you walk into a place with air conditioning, it's not that bad. Like you feel great. So everywhere, just like like movie theaters blast the AC, and bars and arcades and coffee shops. Everywhere you go has really good AC. So like honestly, you just go to like a lot of times we'll grab sweaters and go see a movie. Like we just you just the same as winters in Michigan. It's like you just don't go outside for a couple months, and then when it's over, it's over. And because it's a dry heat, it's really not that bad.
Yeah. So any vacation planned or any like weekend trips or anything?
Yeah, I'm actually going to San Diego next week. My older brother, he just had the first child of any of my siblings. So back in February. So the kid is what month is it? Is 6 month old? Is the kid 6 months?
Almost. Yeah. Yeah.
Almost
Five.
6 months
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
And so we're going to the beach, and it's gonna be the first time that the little monster sees the ocean. So I want to be there for that. But then I'm gonna go up to LA. I'm gonna record and um, bop around, play some open mics or whatever it is that I do up there, and try to be as productive as I can up there for a week or so, and then head back to Phoenix and do the same shit. Keep recording. Keep trying to make the dream work.
So is that a drive then from Phoenix to San Diego, or are you flying?
It's like 5.5 hours. This is a
Yeah.
drive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a road dog, so like 5.5 hours is that's nothing.
Right.
I just drove from pretty much nonstop from we had a show in Columbus, and then the next day we had a show in Boston. And so I drove nonstop from Columbus to Boston because we didn't have any time. We didn't have like a day in between, so we packed up from Columbus, Ohio. The show we packed it from the show and then just booked it to Boston overnight. And honestly, the next day I didn't feel so bad. I was like, I got like an hour's sleep once we got into Boston, and then it was time to go to sound check, and it was fun.
Yeah. I mean, right. It's just sleep, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all. That's all.
Right.
Yeah, so like, 4.5 hours, 5.5 hours, whatever it is, San Diego. I could do that in my sleep.
Yeah. We have some friends that are in San Diego as well, but they are moving, I think July or August. Actually, yeah, I think next month.
Yeah.
Um, they both can work remotely, so they can go where they want. But San Diego, man, it's like there isn't too many better cities in the world, I don't think. Like,
It's dude, it's so nice. I
yeah,
don't it's almost like it's like paradise. It's
it
crazy.
is.
It's like I can't even imagine living there, to be honest with you, because it just seems so like what do you do when it's that comfortable all the
Yeah.
time? It's just so nice there. It's crazy to me.
So much to do too.
I think I need a little bit of struggle in my life. I don't know if I could live there. I think I'd go crazy.
And the brunch scene there. Oh my God. We had brunch there. Oh my, it's so
Yeah, they
good.
go hard. They go hard on the
So
brunch.
good.
For real. Yeah. I mean the food is definitely very good in San Diego, and they're like their Mexican food is like as good as Phoenix. So it's nice to go there and just get a different type of Mexican food.
Yeah. And that Hotel Coronado and Coronado itself. I mean, that area is just like that beach is
Absolutely.
awesome. Yeah, it's
Dude,
good time.
everything is good in San Diego.
Yeah.
I spend most of my time in like Up County, like Encinitas area, um, La Jolla sort of vibe.
Yeah, La Jolla's great. I mean, Oceanside. Yeah, like
Yeah,
or what's that? What's the like? Is it Surf City? Is that a town?
Oceanside, Encinitas,
Oceanside. What?
Del Mar, Solana Beach.
Salon. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
And then what's a little farther up is Carlsbad, right?
yeah, correct.
Yeah, I've not
Which
been.
is
I want to go up
awesome.
that way. I hear that's pretty awesome up there
Yeah,
too.
dude, North County is the vibe.
Yeah,
Definitely check out North County next time you're there.
yeah. Good stuff. Well, Jared, thank you so much for doing this interview. It's from like I said, from seeing you in 2017 in a hat shop, or that might have been 2018, whatever year that was.
Everyone's, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, to you know, fast forward now to be able to have this with you, and you're still doing it, and still still doing it very, very well. So
yeah. Man,
keep
I
on,
appreciate it.
man. Hell yeah.
I
Appreciate
appreciate
it,
it.
brother. Definitely.
Well, thanks
Um,
for having me, man.
yeah. So check him out on tour. Any chance we'll see you in the Mid Atlantic then?
Yeah, you'll see me around. I
Okay.
mean, I was just in DC not too long ago, but I'll be back around real soon. Don't you worry.
All right, cool. Well, I will hit you up the next time you are
Love it.
in the area, brother.
All right, buddy.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That helps us. That helps the bands and artists like Wheelwright. Also, check out our sponsor, RAR Outfitters. That's RAWR, outfitters.com. Don't
I
just wear RAR. And
love it.
as always, I've been Dog. You've been great. This is the Music Lab Podcast.